Hey guys, thanks for joining me on another episode of Jack's Mechanics. Today we've got a Nissan X Trail 2005. It's a T30, so it's probably the 2.5 QR25DE. It might be a 2 litre. And customer complaint of stalling. And just bringing up here, no engine light. The fuel gauge apparently doesn't work, so we just won't worry about the low fuel. Just taking it, when I first started it up, misfired, possibly on 2 cylinders, no codes, possibly just 1 cylinder, then it cleared itself up, so, you know, potentially thinking head gasket, taking it for a drive, sort of stumbling. You sort of feel the power, sort of feel like it was coming and going, so maybe was then thinking fuel. Is that all we got? What's going on here? Okay, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, scan tool's still plugged in. Mixture related. Generally, like if you have a misfire and it's like really sort of sharp, it would potentially point towards like an electrical ignition misfire, something along those lines. If it was sort of smooth coming and going, not jolting, then maybe a mixture, fuel or air related misfire. Either way, I took it for a drive, took it up the hill, plenty of power on wide open, and when you got to the top of the hill, so Q25, top of the hill, misfired a couple of times and stalled. Started up, sounded like almost uneven compression when I started it. I tried to restart it, didn't restart instantly. Driving it back into the workshop, slowing down again, misfires, sort of caught itself and has been idling in the workshop and idles fine. If we brake torque it, put it in drive, foot on a brake, accelerator, show you, doesn't misfire. You can hear that, you might be able to hear the RPM. My foot's pretty steady, and you know, no misfires, obviously no engine light, no codes. My first day back for a couple of weeks from being on maternity leave, the other tech said that he pulled the spark plugs out. It's just had a service. I think he was just checking the spark plugs, and all the plug tubes had a bit of oil on them. He said in particular number 4, actually inside the engine on the ground side of the spark plug was pretty oil covered, and he said even on the crown of the piston quite a bit of oil. Doesn't look like we're going to find anything here, so we'll get out of this boring side of things. Not sure how long this has been happening. See if we can get some data here. But yeah, it displays plenty of power on wide open, but when you cruise you can sort of feel it sort of coming and going. Okay, so airflow sensor, voltage. Let me just see. We're good to get on wide open. Probably would need to lower the data PIDs to get a faster refresh rate, but can see it was rich on that snap throttle there. Yeah, maybe would like to see that a bit higher, but it isn't loaded, so maybe that's okay. This might F1. Don't believe that's our long-term fuel trim bank one. Sort of wanted to see some normal fuel trims that I could relate to. Yeah, so I'll just go back into the OBD and see if it'll show us data properly. Sometimes this scan tool is a bit how you going. Feel a slight misfire. It's done 235,000 Ks, and you know, I'm honestly almost thinking, sort of possibly fuel injectors. Show me some data. Pretty weird. I've never seen a car like this not show OBD2 data. I felt misfired just then. Yeah, that is so odd. Might see if we can borrow somebody's scan tool. Haven't even had a look in the engine bay. Definitely can feel misfires. Feels, you know, ignition related. Maybe we've got potentially more than one issue going on here. Alright, well, this sucks. I might just I'll have a quick look in the engine bay. If I can't find anything obvious, I'll grab a different scan tool. Gonna have to go borrow one because we've only got one snap on, and yeah, we'll grab that on the next screen. So I couldn't really find anything other than two shitty Ghost coils. Looking at the KB required to fire the spark plug, obviously 50,000 volts is a lot. When you compare it to these ones that are averaging around 20, you know, you would probably maybe expect to see around 10 at idle, 10, 15, sparking up a little bit. You know, generally around 20. There's clearly a difference here. Not only if we do that, if we go to the mode and we go onto the burn time, oops, sorry, we've got only just about 1 millisecond of burn on here, and these other ones are all about 1.5 to 1.8. And if we go to our view, just to show you on the waveform how different it looks, same thing down here, you know, 1.8, you know, close to 2 milliseconds. You can clearly see a big difference. So it's looking at the KB looked really high, so that's why we jumped onto the other one. Something odd going on here. High KB could indicate, you know, an injector issue, but sort of not having fuel trims is a bit annoying. Haven't got this another scan tool yet, but we'll go grab the scan tool and see if we can get some good data off it and go from there. Just decided to try and use this data. Just gave it a wide open pull. You can see this part down here went really rich. Sorry, getting a bit confused there. Which is obviously good, high voltage when we're going under wide open throttle. The mass airflow sensor 3.8 volts might be a little bit low, but I don't think that's a worry. Not too sure. I don't think these two data pits here are working. Yeah, it's all a bit confusing. It's not playing up at the moment. Go back onto our other data. I mean, if this is talking about our fuel trims here, not really sure how to read Nissan's fuel trims, but I mean, it doesn't. If 100's probably our baseline, it's probably not anything too skewed. Bit weird how it's going up and down like that. .6 milliseconds on the fuel injectors might be a bit high. Could possibly be indicating it was again blocked injectors. Injector pulse 2.8. That's probably a bit more acceptable. Yeah, just not sure how to interpret this stuff. I'll just take it for another drive. Bit hard when it doesn't play up constantly, and we're just struggling with unknown data to me anyway. Just took it for another wide open. 15.4 milliseconds on the injector pulse width. That sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot. B fuel scheduled milliseconds, maybe that's what it's telling it to do. It sounds like a lot there. I can definitely deliver that correct amount of fuel, but maybe it's not going to be open for that long. I think what I'll do is I will grab this other scan tool and see if we can get some fuel trim data that I can interpret. Well guys, I was about to check the fuel pressure. I did take a quick fuel sample. I was a bit concerned about the amount of duration on those injectors, and I still am concerned, but I thought, I could smell coolant and in the engine bay. It smelled like it was hot. I mean, the head looks reasonably new. We just don't do heads to these things because they have cylinder liners that sink and that people can never get the job done properly, so it's always just an engine job. Pulled the plugs out because I didn't want to take the other tech's word on what was actually on the spark plugs, and they all look pretty good, but I thought I'll just put a pressure tester on there, pump some pressure. I hope you can see the reflection. Well, that's a dry cylinder. That's a wet cylinder. That's a wet cylinder. That's a wet cylinder. Well, that's just been a big waste of time. Sometimes you should just, follow your gut. I instantly thought, maybe it was a blown head gasket, but it just sort of didn't make sense why it stalled out after a test drive, Yeah, all a bit confusing, but it's fine. It's what it is. It's another day. So that's that one done and dusted. This thing's probably going to go in the bin. Thanks for following. Sorry it wasn't an educational video, but yeah, big waste of time. Anyway, take care guys. Consider liking, consider subscribing. See you at the next one.